On the day I died, my fiancée was at her wedding, marrying a New York City elite scion. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, my arms and legs were broken, and my body was thrown to a grizzly bear. Grizzlies prefer to eat their prey alive, so I had to listen to the sound of my own bones being crushed between its teeth. In my final moment of despair, a young, clear voice whispered in my ear, "Ethan Grant, do you see me as a man or as a god?" I forced my eyes open and saw a familiar white fox standing before me. I never thought I'd live to see a spirit fox asking for its final blessing, but its timing was perfect. Without hesitation, I answered, "I was born with a sovereign destiny. If you can give me a proper burial after I die, you will inherit my lifetime of good karma and ascend to immortality." Ava and Julian thought they could steal my destiny. Not a chance. I'd give it to a fox spirit before I ever let them have it. I never expected to open my eyes again, but when I did, I was back on the day of the earthquake. After my fiancée, Ava Mitchell, had my limbs broken and left me to be eaten alive by a grizzly, I was reborn. I woke up on the same day from my past life, the day Ava and I were caught in an earthquake. Last time, to protect Ava, I was pinned by a falling oak tree. It shattered my leg, and a branch tore a gash across my face, leaving a scar that ran bone deep. I became a cripple and was disfigured. But during my entire hospital stay, Ava never once came to visit me. She didn't even call. It stung, but she was the girl I'd grown up with, my junior from the monastery. I instinctively made excuses for her. Maybe she's just too busy. It was only later, from my college roommate, that I found out she was with Julian Croft, the heir to one of New York's most powerful families. But she was engaged to me. I couldn't stop myself from calling to confront her. It took more than a dozen tries before she finally picked up. "Ava." I'd barely said her name when she cut me off, her voice sharp with annoyance. "Ethan, I'm incredibly busy. Why are you blowing up my phone? It's so annoying." I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, my voice hoarse. "Ava, I'm still in the hospital. Why haven't you come to see me?" She paused for a beat, then said dismissively, "Ethan, a tree fell on you. With your kind of luck, what's the big deal? You're the guy who fell off a cliff as a kid and walked away without a scratch. I know you want me around," she continued, "but I'm just really swamped right now." My heart went cold. My good fortune meant I deserved to lie in a hospital bed for 2 weeks while my own fiancée couldn't be bothered to visit. "Then what's going on with you and Julian Croft?" I pressed. The question made her explode. "What's that supposed to mean, Ethan? There is nothing going on between Julian and me. Are you accusing me of something? You know he was born under a cursed star, that anyone who gets close to him meets a bad end. I'm not an idiot. Why would I ever get involved with him?" She sounded deeply wronged, as if I had wounded her to the core. Hearing the supposed pain in her voice, I immediately backed down and apologized. "I'm sorry, Ava. I was just asking. Please don't be upset." Her tone softened after that. But I had no idea that Ava was already blinded by the Croft family's immense wealth and power. To reverse Julian's blighted destiny, she was planning to use a forbidden ritual to swap my fate with his. The ritual required the subject to be in a state of absolute terror at the moment of death. When I was a kid, I was once cornered by a black bear and almost mauled to death. Ever since, I've had a deep, primal fear of them. My mother, after our engagement, had laughingly told this story to Ava. To achieve their goal, Ava and Julian had men break all 4 of my limbs. Then, on the day of their wedding, they drove me deep into the mountains and left me in front of a starving grizzly bear. Grizzlies like to eat their prey alive. And so, I watched, helpless, as the bear began to devour my body, piece by piece. The sound of its chewing filled my ears, a wet, crunching noise that vibrated through my skull. I thrashed in pure horror, desperate to escape, but I was powerless. Just as I gave in to despair, a young voice echoed in my mind. "Ethan Grant, do you see me as a man or as a god?" Stunned, I looked up and saw a familiar white fox standing before me. Wasn't this the same fox I'd saved during the earthquake? It had cultivated itself into a spirit and was now asking me for its final blessing to achieve its ultimate form. Its timing couldn't have been better. I was born with a sovereign destiny. I told it without a second of hesitation. "If you can give me a proper burial after I die, you will inherit my lifetime of good karma and ascend to immortality. My master had taught me that when spirits like foxes and weasels are on the brink of transformation, they seek out a human with great karmic merit to ask for a blessing. If the person says they look like a human, they can take human form. If the person says no, their centuries of cultivation are destroyed. Only a person with a sovereign destiny, or one who is a reincarnated celestial being, can grant them divinity. A normal person, no matter how much good karma they've accumulated, is still mortal and lacks the power to elevate a spirit to godhood. I was born with a sovereign destiny, a fate of the highest order. That was why Ava and Julian had orchestrated my death, to steal my destiny and give it to him. But if they wanted my fate, my luck, I would never let them have it. I'd give my karma and my destiny to a fox spirit before I'd ever let it fall into their hands. After answering the fox, I could hold on no longer and my eyes closed for the last time. But I woke up again. I was back on the day of the earthquake. Thinking of everything that had happened, a storm of hatred raged within me. Ava Mitchell, Julian Croft, this time, you will not get away with it. 2. Right now, Ava was stomping up the mountain trail ahead of me, furious because I hadn't booked a 5-star resort for our trip. Last time, I blamed myself for not being able to provide her with a life of luxury. I chased after her, patiently and gently trying to calm her down. When the earthquake hit, I didn't think twice before throwing myself over her to shield her. But this time, I watched her figure grow smaller in the distance and slowed my pace to a crawl. Thinking about it now, with my kind of luck, I should never have been caught in a natural disaster like an earthquake in the first place. But last time we were. It's not surprising, really. By this point, Ava had already gotten involved with Julian Croft, creating a karmic link between them. She was being affected by his blighted destiny, and misfortune was starting to follow her. And because she was still my fiancée, that karmic tie ensnared me as well. In the original timeline, Ava was destined for disaster in this earthquake. But I paid the price, a broken leg and a disfigured face, to save her, and she walked away unharmed. This time, I had no intention of being her sacrificial lamb. Just then, the ground began to shake. The world swayed violently, and screams of terror erupted from the tourists all around the state park. It wasn't a massive earthquake. Even with the holiday crowds, there were very few casualties. Most injuries were from falling rocks, people losing their footing, or like me in my past life, being hit by a falling tree. Just like before, a massive oak tree to Ava's right began to groan and tilt, its roots tearing from the earth. In her panic, she was completely oblivious to the danger she was in. I watched coldly as she screamed my name in terror. Only when the tree was already crashing down toward her did I finally break into a sprint. "Ava, get out of the way!" I yelled, my voice filled with fake desperation. But she was frozen, like a character in a movie who can only stare as the car bears down on them. She stood rooted to the spot, her face pale, still waiting for me to save her. Too bad. I wasn't going to make it. The oak came down with a deafening crash, swallowing her in a sea of green leaves. "Ava!" I screamed again, my voice cracking with anguish. As I rushed forward, I saw the same white fox from my past life tumbling out of the woods, rolling head over tail down the slope. It was heading right for the edge of the fallen tree. If it didn't stop, another 50 feet would send it over the park's guardrail and down a steep drop. It would be severely injured, if not killed. Last time, I had seen a flash of white out of the corner of my eye and thought it was a child. Despite my own pain, I instinctively reached out and grabbed it. I was surprised to feel a handful of soft fur. When I looked, I saw it was a white fox. I immediately let go. It gave a sharp yelp, landed on its feet, and shot back into the forest. Remembering the fateful connection between us, I dove and intercepted it. I looked into its eyes. I was a little disappointed. Compared to the spiritually aware fox I saw before my death, this one just seemed like a normal animal. I released it, and it scurried away without a second glance. Only then did I turn my attention back to Ava, putting on a mask of frantic grief. "Ava, are you okay?" I shouted into the mass of branches. "Don't be scared. I'm coming to get you." Ignoring the aftershocks, I began clawing desperately at the leaves, fighting my way into the dense canopy of the fallen tree. It took me a while to find Ava, buried under a mess of trunk and branches. The main trunk had caught her directly across the waist. The white dress she was wearing was stained dark red with blood. A sharp branch seemed to have pierced one of her eyes, and blood was trickling from the corner of her mouth. When she saw me, her face lit up as if I were her savior. She stretched a trembling hand toward me. "Ethan, save me." I ran to her side, my face a perfect picture of panic. I put my hands on the massive tree trunk and pretended to strain with all my might to lift it, but the tree was just too big. Of course, my efforts were useless. Still, letting her die here would be getting off too easy. I cupped my hand around my mouth and screamed to the surrounding area, "Help! Please, somebody help my fiancée. She's trapped under a tree." Just then, the shaking stopped. Hearing my cries, several kind-hearted hikers rushed over. Working together, they managed to lift the heavy trunk just enough. I seized the opportunity and dragged Ava's body out from underneath. It wasn't long before an official rescue helicopter arrived. Ava was airlifted and flown to the nearest hospital for emergency treatment. I, along with the other tourists, made my way down the mountain. Once I was clear, I took my time getting to the hospital. By the time I arrived, Ava was just out of surgery. The doctor told me her injuries were severe. The impact had crushed her abdomen, causing catastrophic damage to her internal organs, including her uterus, which had to be removed. On top of that, her right eye had been blinded by the branch. I listened with a look of deep sorrow on my face, but inside, I was celebrating. She deserved it. Ava didn't wake up until the evening of the next day. I was right there, leaning over her with a look of intense concern. "Ava, how are you feeling?" When she saw me, she seemed to freeze. A moment later, an expression of utter disbelief crossed her face. "Ethan," she instinctively tried to sit up, only to realize her body wouldn't respond. That's when the memories of the day before came flooding back. Her face went deathly pale. She snapped her head up, her one good eye burning with a venomous hatred. "Ethan, why didn't you save me? That was supposed to be you under that tree." From her look, her words, I knew instantly. She had been reborn, too. Remembering everything she did to me in our last life, I sneered inwardly. Outwardly, I feigned shock and hurt. "Ava, how can you say that? I wanted to save you, but you were running so far ahead of me. I couldn't get there in time." "You're lying," she shrieked. "You've been training in martial arts with Master Lin since you were a kid. How could you not have been fast enough?" I shook my head, my expression pained. "I know martial arts, Ava, not teleportation. I'm not as powerful as you think I am. Don't worry," I added, my voice dripping with false sincerity. "Even though this has happened to you, I would never abandon you." My words only fueled her rage. "Who needs a poor, useless nobody like you to take responsibility for them?" she spat. "Ethan, as of today, we're through. The engagement is off." I stared at her, my mouth agape, as if I couldn't process her words. "Ava, what are you saying?" Inside, I was laughing my ass off. Who would want to marry a vain, cruel, poisonous woman like you anyway? Ava just glared at me with pure hatred. "Get out." I got out, practically skipping. As I reached the door, I heard her already on the phone, her voice desperate as she called Julian Croft. My eyes narrowed. Without Julian's help, Ava never would have been able to overpower me and break my limbs. Ava deserved to die, but so did the arrogant, power-abusing Julian Croft. They wanted to steal my destiny. This time, we'll see if they have what it takes. That same day, a helicopter sent by Julian Croft transferred Ava to a private hospital in the city. I didn't try to see her again. Instead, I went back home. I needed to see my master. My hometown has a Taoist monastery. When I was 5, my parents took me there to pray for good fortune. I was too young to understand reverence. Staring at the statues of the 3 pure ones on the altar, I didn't kneel or bow. I just grinned. The old master watched me for a long time before asking my parents for my date and time of birth. After a quick calculation, he told them my astrological chart was perfectly complete. I was born with a sovereign destiny. My parents were overjoyed. A sovereign destiny sounded like a fantastic fate to have. But then the old master added, "His destiny is powerful, but it will bring misfortune to his parents and siblings. It would be best if he were sent to the monastery to practice and study." My parents, of course, didn't believe him, but his words quickly came true. First, My father fell from a wall while working on a construction site and broke his leg. Then, my grandfather was electrocuted and died while using a water pump to irrigate the rice fields. Terrified by the old master's prophecy, my parents, with heavy hearts, brought me to the monastery. And so, I became Master Lin's disciple, dedicating my life to studying the Tao. When I was 10, Master Lin returned from his travels with an orphan girl. Her name was Ava Mitchell. Ethan, my master, told me, from now on, Ava will be your junior. As her senior, you must take good care of her. I nodded enthusiastically. Life at the monastery was lonely, and the training was arduous. The sudden arrival of a companion was a welcome change. Ava loved to stick by my side. As time went on, our childhood friendship blossomed into something more. Master Lin had brought her to the monastery in the first place because her destiny was highly compatible with mine. Seeing that we had fallen for each other, he arranged for our engagement. When we were 18, Ava and I both got into a university in New York City. The glamour and energy of the city were a world away from our small town. Ava was quickly captivated by the wealth she saw all around her. She began to complain about how plain and hard life at the monastery was. During school breaks, she no longer wanted to go back, preferring to travel with her roommates. Worried for her safety, I always went with her. To afford her expenses, I lived as frugally as possible, working multiple part-time jobs. And yet, she got angry with me simply because I couldn't afford to book a 5-star resort for our trip. Looking back now, it's clear we were never meant to be. Even if our destinies were compatible, our personalities were not. Sooner or later, it was all bound to fall apart. My parents were happy to see me when I came home for the break. But because of the clash in our fates, I didn't dare stay for long. I dropped off their gifts and hurried up the mountain. Master Lin was surprised to see me. "Ethan, what are you doing back? I thought you were traveling with Ava," he said. I rushed to him and wrapped my arms around his thin frame. "Master, the monastery was poor, barely making ends meet. It had been a struggle for him to raise both me and Ava. But in my last life, Ava, in her quest to get the fate-swapping ritual to win over Julian Croft, had murdered our master and burned the monastery to the ground. Such a disloyal and treacherous person didn't deserve to be called human." My master sensed the choked emotion in my voice and gently patted my back. "What is it, Ethan? Don't cry, I'm here," he said softly. "Did something happen at school?" Since I was 5 years old, Master Lin had been both a father and a mother to me, my teacher and my guide. Hearing his calm, gentle voice, the emotions I had suppressed even in front of my own parents finally broke through. "Master, Ava, no, she's fallen in love with someone else," I said, my teeth clenched. He was quiet for a moment, then replied with his usual wisdom. "When fates align, they come together. When they diverge, they part. Haven't I taught you this since you were a child?" I shook my head. "It's more than that, Master. The man she's with is a New York elite, Julian Croft. He was born with a blighted destiny, a cursed star. To be with him, she wants to swap my fate with his." My master's expression changed instantly. As she lost her mind, he thundered. "To alter one's fate is to defy the heavens. Did she learn nothing from her years of study? Has it all gone to waste?" I shook my head again. "Master, Ava has been corrupted by wealth and power. All she cares about now is money. On this trip, she was angry that I wasn't successful enough to put her up in a luxury hotel. She stormed off, leaving me far behind. Then the earthquake hit. We were too far apart for me to save her, and she was hit by a falling tree. When she woke up, she blamed me, saying I should have been the one who was crushed. Then she broke off our engagement and called Julian Croft to come and get her." Master Lin looked at my calm expression, his own face filled with sympathy. His voice turned cold and disappointed. "If she wants to end the engagement, then so be it. Ava's destiny, while strong, contains a great calamity that was to be neutralized by her husband's fortune. With your destiny, protecting her would have been simple. Even another man with a compatible chart could have seen her through it. But if she has chosen someone with a blighted fate, she will be dead within 3 years." He shook his head grimly. His words caught my attention. This was something my master had never told me before. "What if she succeeds in swapping my fate with Julian's?" I asked. He shook his head again. "Even then, it would only grant her a temporary peace." I finally felt a sense of relief. "So, Even if Ava had succeeded in the last life, she wouldn't have found a happy ending. She truly brought it all on herself. It wasn't long before Ava called the monastery. She immediately started complaining to my master, accusing me of standing by and watching as she was crushed by the tree, causing her severe injuries and the loss of an eye. But Master Lin had no patience for her whining. Ava, if I recall correctly, I never withheld physical and self-defense training from you, just because you were a girl. It was you who complained that waking up early to train was too tiring and gave up after only 2 days. Ethan told me you had plenty of time to get out of the way when that tree was falling, but you just stood there, waiting for him to save you. If you won't even try to save yourself, why do you expect others to do it for you? If you had been as diligent in your training as Ethan, how could you have failed to react in a moment of danger? Master Lin's words stripped away her facade. Enough, you old fraud. Ava shrieked into the phone. You were always biased. You never taught me the true secrets of our practice. And now you have the nerve to talk to me about saving myself. Don't think I don't know why you took me in. You just wanted to raise a bride for Ethan. You and your precious disciple wanted to use me and expected me to be grateful for it. Dream on. Hearing her venomous words, the last shred of affection my master had for her vanished. Ava, I raised you for nearly 10 years, and this is what you truly thought of me all this time, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. For the sake of our past connection, I will tell you one last thing. I brought you up this mountain not to be Ethan's bride, but because your destiny held a great calamity, one that Ethan's fate could have resolved. Ava just laughed coldly. Ridiculous. If Ethan could really resolve my calamity, why was I crushed by that tree? He didn't save me at all. Your predictions are worthless. Master Lin's voice remained calm. When did I ever say your calamity had arrived? You were hit by that tree purely because you got too close to that man with a blighted destiny and were tainted by his negative energy. That was just bad luck, Ava. Your true calamity is still to come. I've said all I need to say. From now on, you are on your own. With that, he hung up the phone before Ava could respond. He sighed and turned to me, shaking his head. That child, I blame myself for not teaching her well. Master, you shouldn't blame yourself, I said, trying to comfort him. Ava was already 11 when you brought her here. Her worldview was already formed. Her obedience was likely just a performance, born from a fear of being abandoned. What we see now is just her true nature. Ava said my master favored me. He raised me from the age of 5 and saw me as his successor. How could she possibly compare? Even if he was biased toward me. So what? My master simply nodded. You have a point. Then his expression turned serious. But I fear our lives are about to become much more difficult. From what you've said, this Julian Croft is powerful and influential. Now that Ava knows about your sovereign destiny, they will not let you go easily. I nodded, my eyes hardening. Don't worry, master. I won't let them succeed. I refuse to believe that in this entire country, the Croft family can do whatever they please. But Master Lin shook his head, his face grave. Ethan, the Crofts have immense power. If they are determined to swap your fates, it will be very difficult for you to escape. But do not be afraid. I may not be as powerful as them, but if they want to harm my disciple, they will have to get through me first. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes. He said a few more words to me and then disappeared into his room. 3 days later, he emerged, looking as if his very life force had been drained from him. He handed me a paper talisman. Ethan, keep this safe. If Ava and the Crofts truly attempt the fate-swapping ritual, wait for them to begin, then spit your heart's blood onto this talisman. Not only will the one aiding them suffer a severe backlash, but Julian Croft's intentions will be exposed to the heavens. He will be dead within 3 days. My master's face was a mask of cold fury. My hands trembled as I accepted the talisman. Thank you, master, but your body... At that moment, I regretted telling him about Ava and Julian's plan. The energy and power required to create this talisman must have cost him dearly. My master just laughed. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. I felt a little relieved. After the week-long break, I reluctantly left the monastery with the talisman and returned to New York City. The moment I arrived, I received a text from my master. He said he was going on another long journey and told me not to worry. But for some reason, a deep sense of unease settled in my heart. I couldn't shake it. I called my parents, and asked them to check on the monastery. The news came back quickly. Master Lin had passed away. I understood instantly how the talisman in my hand had been created. It was for me. In just 3 days, he had burned through the remainder of his life force to give me a fighting chance. I immediately tried to book a flight home, but as I stepped out of the subway station, a group of men in black suits surrounded me. My heart sank. They were Croft's men. Just then, Julian Croft himself stepped out of a luxury sedan parked at the curb, wearing a pair of limited edition sneakers. He looked down at me, his eyes a mixture of contempt and a strange, hungry desire. "Ethan," he said coldly, "Ava was badly hurt because of you. It's not right for you to come back to the city and not even check on her." I laughed in his face. "Because of me? Don't you mean because of you? Ava was nearly killed because she got tangled up with a cursed train wreck like you." Julian's face darkened instantly. "You're asking to die, Ethan." But I wasn't the least bit intimidated by his threats. Anyone who gets close to you is asking to die. Do me a favor and stay far away from me. It was laughable. Last time, they broke all my bones and I still didn't fear him. Did he think a few harsh words would scare me now? Besides, my master was dead because of him, and Ava, my master was gone, and I would make damn sure the two of them wouldn't get to live either. In the end, I got into the car with Julian Croft. I was taken back to the same secret room where they had held me in my past life. Ava was there, sitting in a wheelchair, her one good eye glaring at me with the cold, venomous hatred of Snake. "Ethan," she hissed, "you did this to me. Tell me, how should I make you pay?" I put on a lazy, unconcerned expression. "Sorry, but you should be blaming Julian. Think about it. When you were with me, every time you were in danger, things always turn out fine, didn't they? This time you had such bad luck because you were tainted by Julian's miserable fate. If you're going to blame someone, blame him. What does it have to do with me?" Julian's face grew even darker. Ava shot me a hateful look. "You're still making excuses, even at a time like this." She turned to Julian, her voice suddenly soft and gentle. "Julian, honey, is everything ready?" Julian nodded immediately. "Everything's ready." His men brought in an array of occult items and set them up around the room. Ava turned back to me, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "This time, Ethan, I will succeed." Her words made me pause. This time, did that mean she failed last time? It made sense. At the last moment, the fox spirit had appeared, and I had transferred all my karma and destiny to it. As long as it fulfilled my last wish, to pull my body from the bear's jaws and give me a simple burial, it would achieve immortality. Ava's ritual would have been for nothing. And if a fate-swapping ritual fails, Julian would have undoubtedly suffered a violent backlash. As for Ava, the one who proposed it, with Julian dead, would the Croft family have let her live? Thinking about it, I started to understand why she had been reborn. It was likely that not long after I died, the Crofts had gotten rid of her too. Good. She deserved it. Perhaps because she had the experience from her past life, Ava performed the ritual with a practiced ease. She seemed to be in a hurry to prove herself this time, though, so she skipped the part where they broke my limbs. For me, that was a small blessing. Before long, I felt the air in the room grow cold and heavy. Julian, however, looked ecstatic. "Ava, it's working. I feel so much better already," he said, his voice buzzing with excitement. Ava's tense expression finally relaxed. She smiled at him sweetly. "I told you, marry me, and you'll live to be 100, no problem. And with me by your side, the Croft family empire will reach even greater heights. Ethan has a sovereign destiny. Can you imagine what will happen to your family when that becomes yours?" After a moment's hesitation, Julian nodded. "Don't worry. As soon as I get back, I'll talk to my father about our wedding." Ava let out a sigh of relief, a blissful smile spreading across her face. She then shot me a cold look. "Just sit tight, Ethan. In 3 days, you will die." I just stare back at her, my face a mask of indifference. After they left, I sat perfectly still on the floor and closed my eyes to meditate. For the next 2 days, Ava's men only gave me sips of water. I had nothing to eat. I could feel my body growing heavier, colder. I knew it was Julian's blighted destiny, his lifetime of bad luck and negative energy, slowly transferring to me. But this time, I wasn't worried at all. In the dead of night on the 3rd day, under the cover of absolute darkness in the basement, I used my internal energy to snap the ropes binding my hands. I took out the talisman my master had given me before his death and slammed my fist into my own chest. A spray of blood erupted from my mouth, spattering across the paper. The talisman instantly burst into flames, burning without any fuel. As it burned, the oppressive, bone-chilling cold that had surrounded me vanished, as if consumed by the fire. Watching the last of the ash drift away, I knew Ava Mitchell and Julian Croft were finished. Less than an hour after the talisman burned, the basement door flew open. Ava and Julian stormed in, their faces masks of disbelief and rage. "How is this possible?" Ava shrieked, her voice cracking. "I was so close. Why are you still alive?" Her remaining eye was wide with confusion. Why? Why had she failed in her past life, and why had she failed again now? She had followed the instruction for the forbidden ritual from that old fraud's notes to the letter. Suddenly, a look of realization dawned on her face, and she glared at me, her teeth gritted. "That old man. The ritual he gave me was fake, wasn't it? He tricked me," she screamed, her eyes fixed on mine. I looked at her, my expression calm and detached. Why would the forbidden arts my master recorded be fake? I asked quietly. If they were real, then why did I fail? She shot back, refusing to believe it. A mocking smile touched my lips. I leaned forward, my voice dripping with malice. "Have you ever considered the possibility that I was never born with a sovereign destiny to begin with?" I would never tell her the real reason she had failed twice. Ava's eye widened in shock. She shook her head violently. "Impossible. That's absolutely impossible. That old man told me you had a sovereign destiny. Your parents said so too. They couldn't all have been lying to me." I looked at her with pity. People in our line of work often say flattering things to make clients happy. Isn't that normal? If my destiny was so great, why would my parents have sent me to a monastery to be raised? Master Lin said I had a sovereign destiny to comfort my parents. And you actually believed it? Ava shook her head again, frantically, like a woman possessed. "No, I know your birth chart. That is the chart of a sovereign destiny." My smile widened. And birth charts can't be faked. My mother was all alone when she had me. She herself wasn't even sure what time I was born. Didn't you know that? At that, Ava finally broke. "Liar, you're lying to me. I don't believe you." Julian's face was now ashen. "Ava," he said, his voice dangerously low, "you swore to me that Ethan had a sovereign destiny." She shook her head, trying to reassure him. If his birth chart is accurate, then he does. It has to be right. The cautious deference in Julian's expression was gone, replaced by a cold fury. "You didn't even know if his chart was accurate, and you dare to have me perform a fate swap with him?" He paused, a new fear dawning on his face. "Now that the ritual has failed, will there be consequences for me?" Ava quickly shook her head. "No, Julian, don't worry. It won't affect you at all. The backlash will only harm me." Julian seemed to relax. He looked from her to me, his eyes cold. Since he doesn't have a sovereign destiny, there's no reason for him to live. Ava nodded slowly. "You're right." She turned her cold gaze on me. "Ethan, today is the day you die." I just smiled faintly at their murderous glares. "Is that so?" The next second, the basement door burst open, and a team of heavily armed officers swarmed in, quickly subduing everyone in the room. The lead officer, a man in a crisp uniform, approached me apologetically. "Mr. Grant, I'm sorry we're late. You've been through a great deal." I shook my head. "You're right on time. The Croft family has harmed many people over the years to extend Julian's life and ward off his misfortune. I'm living proof." I had also shown Julian's birth chart to my master. He had taken one look and said with absolute certainty that, according to his chart, the boy should have died at the age of 3. Yet Julian had lived for over 20 years. How was that possible? The methods were few. Either they had concealed his fate from the heavens, or they had found others to take on his misfortune for him. The Crofts, in their greed, had chosen to do both. Over the years, countless innocent people with good fortune had been sacrificed for Julian's sake. The family operated in the shadows, and while they had attracted suspicion, no one had ever been able to prove anything. In my last life, while getting my practitioner's license, I overheard a fellow student talk about a client with great karmic merit who had died under mysterious circumstances shortly after visiting the Croft estate. It was only after Ava and Julian had trapped me that I realized the horrifying truth. All those fortunate people had likely met their end at the hands of the Crofts. So, this time after my rebirth, I immediately contacted the city's police commissioner. I had seen his face in the news. He had the look of an honest man who despised injustice. I gambled that he would not be intimidated by the Croft family's power. My gamble paid off. The basement turned out to be the Crofts' usual site for their dark rituals. The police quickly found a wealth of evidence. Then, in the garden, they started digging. They found bones. Lots of them. With irrefutable proof, the entire Croft family was taken into custody. The story exploded online. The revelation that one of New York's wealthiest families was involved in something so horrific sent shockwaves through the public. But the story took an even stranger turn. Just after being bailed out by his family's lawyers, Julian Croft collapsed on the steps of the police station, vomited blood, and died on the spot. Someone caught it on camera, and the photo went viral. The internet erupted with a chorus of curses, declaring it was divine retribution. And it was... Did Ava really think there would be no backlash for him? That was just her naive assumption. She was a half-trained amateur who thought stealing my master's book of forbidden arts made her invincible. If swapping fates was so easy and without consequence, every person born with good fortune would be nothing more than a lamb waiting for slaughter. Not long after Julian's death, Ava's own time came. She was already severely injured from the accident. Then came the backlash from a failed dark ritual that she had orchestrated. The combination was more than her body could take. When she heard the news of Julian's death, she coughed up a mouthful of blood, and her life force began to drain away almost instantly. She aged decades in a matter of days, becoming a withered, raving mad woman. The Croft family, embroiled in their own scandal, wanted nothing to do with her. Between her old injuries and the karmic backlash, Ava didn't last a week. Before she died, she begged to see me. I ignored her. Even in death, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of understanding. Once both Julian and Ava were dead, I took a leave of absence from school and went home for my master's funeral. He was buried on the mountain behind the monastery, in a peaceful, quiet spot. "Master, I'm safe now," I whispered, kneeling before his grave and burning paper offerings. "You can rest in peace." After graduation, I didn't stay in the big city. I returned to the monastery and took up my master's mantle. Decades passed. I outlived my parents and my friends, until I had no one left in this world. Perhaps because I never stopped practicing the cultivation techniques my master taught me, I was still sharp and clear-headed at the age of 118. But I knew my time was coming. Before I died, I went to my master's grave one last time to burn offerings. As I finished and was about to stand up, a flash of white appeared before me. It was a white fox. It looked very familiar. It was standing on its hind legs, wearing a simple tunic made of leaves, its eyes fixed on me. "Ethan Grant," it said, its voice clear and young. "Do you see me as a man? Or as a god?" I looked at it for a long time, and then I smiled. "If you spend your days doing good and helping others, then you'll be like a god." The fox bowed deeply to me several times, its body trembling with joy, before it turned and disappeared into the forest. As my own understanding had deepened over the decades, I had come to suspect that my rebirth was no mere accident. Now, seeing this fox, who should have achieved its final form a century ago, only just now completing its journey, my suspicions were confirmed. The fox had used its own hard-won power, the immortality I had granted it, to give up its centuries of cultivation and send me back in time to repay its debt. That being the case, I could not let its sacrifice be in vain. This is the nature of karma, a cycle of cause and effect, debt and repayment.